Welcome everyone to the Ask Me Anything webinar, Doing Business with the Government of Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have so much content to get started. But before we do, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the land that I am on physically. So I know we're all joining virtually from around the province, and there's so many beautiful ancestral lands that we are located on. And I'm located on the Okanagan and Silks people that they have been on for millennia, and it's an absolute honor to be a guest here today. My name is Danielle Hofer, and I am the Outreach Officer at Women's Enterprise Center. It is my pleasure to be hosting the session today, and we have some amazing presenters that I will do formal introductions for. If you are new to Zoom, here are some instructions on how to interact with us. We have the Q&A function and we have the chat function. If you want to make sure that our panelists get to one of your questions, please use the Q&A. If you're wanting to participate with some other attendees or participants, use the chat function and you'll be able to have that conversation. But if you put a question in the chat box, we might miss it. So please put it into the Q&A function. And again, we do have live captioning and ASL translation today. ASL is American Sign Language. So this is our first time Women's Enterprise Center hosting with this captioning. So it's a real honor to have that, and thank you to the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises for organizing that. And here are some instructions on how it works. So specifically the live captioning, if you want to view that, make sure you have two monitors so you can see the presentation and also see the interpretation. There's a link that is going to be provided in the chat box. Please click on that link and then you'll be able to log on to that live captioning. And thank you, Netta. You have copy and pasted that information in the chat box. Also, we have our ASL translators. So right now, I hope that you can see Nick, who is signing for us. Thank you so much, Nick. And later, Lisa will join and also sign for us. Any questions about that, please put them in the Q&A. I'm excited to tell you a little bit about Women's Enterprise Center. We are a not-for-profit organization, and we're dedicated to helping BC women start, grow, and lead their own businesses in this beautiful province. We have a couple services that help women realize their full business potential. So we have a business loans program where you can access up to $150,000 for your new or existing business. We also have professional guidance. So this is business advising, and you can access this for free. We have skills training like this webinar. We have mentoring programs. And we have a supportive community that connects women business owners from around the province. So if you want to get connected with us, please send us an email. And Netta, thank you so much for being here as my support. Netta, please put in our client service email in the chat box for everyone to contact us after the session. We recognize that these are challenging times, so Women's Enterprise Center has created some additional resources to help you get through the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the key programs that we have is a loan program, which is the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, where you can access up to $40,000 in a loan, and then $10,000 of that would be a grant if you pay off the loan by a certain time. So I really encourage you to check out our website, which is wec.ca/COVID-19, and you can find all the resources there. So now on today's session, I'm excited to tell you what we're going to cover. The Government of Canada is actively looking for Canadian-owned businesses to purchase goods and services from. Yet the process can sometimes feel a little intimidating for business owners who are new to the procurement process. If you have burning questions today about selling your goods or services to the government, then you are in the right place. We are hosting Aaron Ydenberg from Public Services and Procurement Canada and Anne Bank from the Department of National Defence and the Armed Forces, as well as Jody from Helga Ware. So thank you so much for being here. And we're going to cover some key Q&A questions. So how do you do business with the government? And how do you use the Canada Buys website to find opportunities? And what are some other programs like ideas or some other services that are available? So before we go into the content, I'm going to introduce each of our panelists. So Ms. Anne Bank is the Acting Director, International Industry Programs at the Department of Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces, where she provides leadership in the management of Canadian defence industry relations and activities in support of the material acquisition and support program of the department. Wow, that's quite a title. Anne joined the public service in 2017 after a 28-year career in the Royal Canadian Navy as a Naval Combat Systems Engineer Officer. Highlights of her military career include 2 operational tours as head of Combat Systems Department, 4 years of recruiting, time with the Director Maritime Equipment Program Management, and several years working with other government departments such as the Security Operations Centers projects. Wow. In her current role, Anne looks forward to continue building and maintaining strong relations with the Department of National Defence internal and external stakeholders. We are so lucky to have Anne Bank here today. Thank you so much. Can't wait to hear from you. We also have Jody Hutner, and she founded Helga Ware with the goal to raise awareness about unsafe hydration and toileting behaviors typical to women working in active outdoor industries, offering clothing options designed for women to encourage dignified, healthy practices and overall wellness. Jody began her career as a junior engineer in a thriving BC environmental consulting industry. But she quickly realized that finding overalls and coveralls that fit her body correctly was practically a second job. Trying to answer the call of nature while in nature was a task unto itself, and one day she decided enough is enough. Knowing these problems are faced by women on work sites across the country, she knew that there must be a solution. So in 2014, Helga Ware was born out of necessity. Thank you so much, Jody, for being here and being a real life example of how women can do business with the Government of Canada. And lastly, I will say the mastermind behind this session today is Aaron Ydenberg. He is so dedicated to supporting business owners work with the Government of Canada. He has done countless webinars with Women's Enterprise Center, and I really appreciate you being here today. Aaron's position with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, also known as OSME, is with the Public Services and Procurement Canada, and he is in charge with business engagement. So with all of that, thank you so much for joining us. It is so exciting to have you. And now I'm going to turn the floor over to you and take it away, Aaron.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Thanks, Women's Enterprise Center, for hosting today's session. And thanks to all of our attendees today for joining us. I'll be very brief. I know we want to get to the question and answer period, and we want to hear from from the other panelists that we have with us today. I know from a lot of the questions that I've seen so far that a lot of you have seen me speak before, potentially with Small Business BC or even here at Women's Enterprise Center. So we're not going to do the OSME, my sort of typical OSME deck about how to do business with the Government of Canada. Instead, I'm going to show off a couple of resources, a couple of new resources that we have that can help you along your journey for how to sell to the Government of Canada. So as Danielle said, my name is Aaron Ydenberg. I'm with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises at Public Services and Procurement Canada. For the benefit of our interpreter, I'll just say OSME, O-S-M-E from now on. So OSME's role is to help small businesses navigate what can be a complicated process. Yeah, the Government of Canada buys a lot. We're one of the biggest buyers of goods and services in the country, an average of about $25 billion a year. But the process for how to access that opportunity can be complicated, and it can be different than a typical business to business relationship or a business to consumer relationship. We have a very complicated environment of laws, regulations, policies, procedures that govern the way we have to spend taxpayer money. And I'm sure as taxpayers, you all appreciate that we have that rigor as well. But our office's job is to help you navigate that process, is to help ensure that there are no barriers in that process for small businesses that are created because of a complicated process. So, when some of the questions come in about how do I find the right supply, how do I find the right buyers, the right customers, how do I begin to respond to a bid and fill out a template and respond to one of these RFPs, those are exactly the kinds of questions that our office can help with. So I would encourage all of you to reach out to myself. My colleague Afnan Al-Hashimi is also on the call today. I've put my email in the chat. Reach out to us, schedule a time when we can sit down with a one-on-one meeting. It's free, there's no cost, of course. We can hear about your business and potentially help suggest the right strategy for how to make what can be a complicated process as simple as it can be for your business to navigate. So I want to share a couple tools with you to start you on that journey. And the first is a new reference sheet that we've published. Called Getting Started Selling to the Government of Canada. So it lays it out in some really good plain language with links to more detailed information on a really good timeline of what information you're going to need to know when you're going to need to know it. So it just starts off with some basics of how to sell to the Government of Canada, understanding what we buy. Hint, it's just about everything. We buy, yes, of course, we buy battleships and fighter jets and, the military. We have Anne here from Department of National Defense, and of course, they're buying bullets and armor. But there are a huge range of opportunities for all kinds of different services that the Government of Canada buys. Yes, there's billion-dollar contracts, but it's all the way down to a couple $100s to, a consultant to come and work with our team for a few days, or a specific graphic design element that a communications office needs for internal communications, or any sort of different good or service or construction tends to get bought by the Government of Canada. The list of things that we don't buy is much shorter than the list of things that we do buy. I see us switching over interpreters. Thank you, Lisa, and hello. Then into how to find those opportunities. So how to search through some government tenders, learn who is buying those goods and services, can be really, really powerful using buyandsell.gc.ca. subscribing for notifications, and potentially finding other governments that could be buyers of your good or service. Then finally moving on to becoming a supplier yourself. So learning how to promote yourself. This sort of magic number here, about $25,000, shows up on this page. If what you're selling is below that threshold of $25,000, it can often be done as a direct contract rather than a sort of formal bidding process. Or potentially in your industry, you're going to need to be pre-qualified to sell to the government of Canada. So where will you need to complete that pre-qualification? Then moving on through the actual bidding process itself. How to prepare a bid and to learn through the follow-up process who was awarded the tender and how to improve your bid for next time. There's a bunch of other information that you can find here, including attending our seminars. So if you're interested in our sort of big formal presentation about how to bid, how to find opportunities, or just sort of in general how to do business with the government of Canada, there's a link down here to attend those seminars. I'll copy this right into the chat here as well. The second resource I want to show is this page, Canada Buys, and Danielle referenced this when she started talking as well. So Canada has begun the process to transition to a new electronic procurement system. It's going to be built by SAP, and it's based on their Ariba network, which many of you may already be familiar with if you supply to other big companies in the private industry. So Canada is going to start using this system, and we will be transitioning to it over the next 2, 3, 4 years. So it's a long change process. Right now, everything will still be on buy and sell, but it could be cross-posted with a link to our new system. So you will have to register as a supplier in the SAP Ariba system, which you can do on this webpage. You can get started with here. See some resources, start getting trained. Oh, thank you, Netta. That's wonderful. Start getting trained, and there is even a practice request for proposal that is out on the SAP Ariba network that suppliers can use to start getting comfortable with that system. So it's much more of a template system where you're responding to specific requirements online through the platform and uploading documents to specific places as they're required that meet the requirements. And then finally, the last program that I want to share is the IDEAS program, the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security. We often talk to suppliers who are conducting R&D, who are on the cutting edge of their industry, and wondering how they can sell their innovative goods or services to the federal government. Our tender, and Jody, you might be in this scenario as well. Creating a brand new set of coveralls for women. Government buyers might not know that exists, and they might just keep putting out tenders again and again, year after year, for the same old coveralls that exist because they don't know. And what this program does is try to help innovators who are pre-commercial with their goods and services come together with other innovators and solve the challenges that our men and women in uniform are going through right now. So this program actually posts challenges that are very wide in scope rather than the sort of very narrow, specific defined requirements that you will see in tenders. They're much more sort of broad problem statements that they're looking to solve, and we're looking to create networks, connect innovators. We want big businesses. We want the people in their garage with drawings on a napkin of the best way that this could be done. We want recent graduates coming out of engineering schools. We want those engineering schools involved as well. All these different kind of organizations are eligible to apply to this program. And the opportunities are really, really diverse as well. You'll see, sorry, I want it to be in current opportunities. You know, you'll see armor and you'll see bullets in here. Of course, they're the military. That's the kind of things that they need, but they have a ton of other needs that could apply to your business. We have this big challenge out right now around how to detect corrosion in ship hulls without pulling the ship out of the ocean and pulling panels off of the side of it to actually look behind. And a bunch of competitive challenges around supporting troops. Everything from, armoring up land vehicles to, detecting objects within a water environment among the waves, to getting, supplies to troops using autonomous vehicles, all the way down to, helping soldiers transition back to civilian life. Again, very, very sort of broad challenge statements, looking for the latest and greatest that's out there to help our men and women in uniform. So I'm going to leave it there, but a couple different sort of opportunities to potentially look at.
Thank you, Aaron.
Overall, sorry, Danielle, just really quickly, overall, I know this was really quick. If you have, I hope we can get to some questions at the end of the webinar today, but please get in touch with myself or my office. We can sit down one-on-one and chat about what strategy might be best for your business.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. And before you sign off, I do have two questions that it would be nice to cover right away. So one question is, how often does the government of Canada choose sole proprietors for services?
Yeah, great question. And quite often. So there is a large supply arrangement called Pro Services, which sort of covers a very, very broad range, just about anything you might call a consultant. And very, very often, I think even the majority of companies that are pre-qualified in Pro Services are sole proprietors. So yeah, absolutely, it happens quite often. Depends on the requirement. Obviously, it needs to be a contract that a sole proprietor has the capacity to deliver. But there is nothing within our contracting regulations that specifically prohibits sole proprietors at all. Okay. And then I see the second question as well. Is it all right if I just read that out?
Yes, please.
So are there specific requirements that the government of Canada is looking for when it comes to sole proprietors for communication services? The biggest one I can flag for you right away is bilingualism. For communication services, even if it's for an internal communications piece, we have the Official Languages Act, which is rule of law, which states that all communication must be available in English and in French. So in terms of specific requirements that are going to apply, that one will, just even if it's here in Vancouver, we still have that requirement to make sure that we're able to provide information in English and in French. So si tu parles en français avec notre bureau aussi, c'est possible faire une réunion avec nous. But in terms of other specific requirements, it would depend on the actual tender, and we would need to look at what's actually in there. Is it all right if I answer this last question?
Yeah, let's do that one last one, and then we'll go to Anne.
Wonderful, thanks. So Brianna asked, the product we're selling is a fully compostable glow stick for search and rescue, military and humanitarian use. How do we best communicate the environmental benefits of our product? When and where and whom do we talk to about addressing the issues of plastic waste and sustainability? Is that measured in the bidding process? Great question. So if you do see a tender come up and it is not measured in the bidding process, it's a great opportunity to introduce the benefits of your environmental solution. So in any tender notice, there is always a contact point listed. They cannot take, an environmental consideration into consideration unless it is transparently communicated as criteria in the tender notice, right? So they might say specifically, extra points will be available, if your product is compostable, or if your packaging is recycled, made using recycled material, or if you can prove to us that your glow stick isn't made using toxic materials, or whatever it is. But they have to specify that as criteria in the tender notice. If they don't, and you can meet that, it won't do you any good to just submit your bid with, here's all the information about how sustainable our product is, because there weren't any criteria listed in the tender. Instead, reaching out to the contract officer early, introducing your product, and reminding them that potentially the government has a commitment to green procurement, which we do, and asking if we would consider adding criteria, or we would consider products that that can meet those requirements. I think that's a fantastic idea. Again, and also, Brianna, reach out to me or my office, and we can show you some of the other innovation programs. Innovative Solutions Canada would be another one I would look at for you. Or just trying to research the offices of who within search and rescue would be the buyers, and potentially start a conversation with them directly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you for those questions. We will have some time at the end for additional questions. So if any of those come up for you, please put them in the Q&A. And now I'm going to take this time to turn the floor over to Miss Anne Bank. All right, is Anne on the line? All right, we'll just give her a moment. She messaged saying she might have an issue with her mic. And if not, Jody, how do you feel about jumping right in? I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, well, let's do that. Jody, if you're okay to take it from here, we'll give Anne a couple moments to log back in and figure out the technology side. So Jody, thank you so much for jumping in and being our amazing women business owner storyteller.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me today. I'm a little bummed I can't see all the audience faces in this COVID time, but I'm happy to be here and to share what made my product and my company attractive for a buyer that was selling into the Canadian government supply chain. So thanks for that awesome introduction, by the way. That was killer. As Danielle said, I'm Jody Huttner, founder and CEO of Helgaware. And I design and I supply, as a small business, safety coveralls, industrial coveralls, and bib overalls for women in trades positions and trades industries, or in active outdoor STEM, and that's science, technology, engineering, and math positions. So let's jump right in. Back in 2019, my company was awarded the project to develop flame-resistant safety coveralls for the tradeswomen of C-SPAN in Victoria. And one of C-SPAN's largest customers, if not their largest, is the Canadian government. And I didn't know at the time, but I've since learned that there were very key parts about what I was doing and how we were doing it that made us very attractive, and the product very attractive to be an investment under the ITB program. So it's really, it first came down to the impact of the product, impact of the technology. So really consider what yours is. Ours, what we were doing wasn't just developing another piece of workwear We were actually trying to innovate and create a solution to address, for example, how to quickly go to the washroom in coveralls without taking everything off. That's like an issue near and dear to my heart. It's kind of what we've been doing this whole time. But not only that, there were other real functional problems tradeswomen were having, had everything to do with fit. When you're wearing a male-bodied coverall, there are certain things that are restricted for you. Your mobility in your arms is restricted from having a shoulder span that's too wide. Your leg mobility is restricted from a crotch that hangs down way too low. So these things, the product would immediately impact, and the technology would immediately impact and benefit the women wearing them by bringing them relief, improving morale, improving their safety, their overall health. So yeah, look at the impact of your product, the impact of your technology. It also had an immediate, that the product itself would have immediate impact on the company. So on C-SPAN, in terms of increased productivity of their workers, improved safety record, also improve morale, engagement. I'm sorry, I'm blabbing. This happens to me every so often. Please just forgive. So that's like immediate impact. And then when we were looking at long-term impact, if you really want to embrace women in the trades, you're gonna have to do things that address in a tangible, long-term way how to retain and attract and keep women in the trades. So that's very important to trades industries, since we're looking at potentially a huge skilled labor shortage coming up in the next 10 years. So companies that can really embrace their tradeswomen and their women in STEM have a better chance of keeping them around, which is very, very important. So then impact. So you've looked at the impact of your product, of your technology to the company, to the people, or the things that it's actually going to service. Now we had to take a look at the impact of our supply chain. So when you look at your supply chain, keep it local. Everybody knows local's best. Something like 45 cents of every dollar spent locally stays within the community. And we all know this. These are things that companies can really get behind. So because we were able to, we're a local company right here in Vancouver, we were able to keep our supply chain for the development project local. We did all of our prototyping here in Vancouver, field testing on site with the women in Victoria. We did our manufacturing in Edmonton. So that meant we were able to offer a 100% Canadian content for that project, which is exactly what the buyer wanted to see. So yeah, keep your supply chain local if possible. And then we also had to look at the impact of the partnership itself. That wasn't so obvious right off the bat, but when you really start digging into it, it's very important to consider. So HelgaWare as a small business with this new product, with the new flame resistant, so I don't know if I squeaked that piece of information in there. It's a flame resistant coverall. That was new to us. We hadn't yet had anything that was flame resistant. And what that new product did was opened us up to having a product that could be attractive to other buyers. So it opened us up to new markets that have requirements for flame resistance, which is really, really great for us. Also, the new FR coveralls, flame resistant coveralls, could be used to develop more products. So for example, a female bodied flight suit is in the pipeline to address the problem or the challenge of toileting while seated in an airplane, flying a plane. It also helped us grow and develop the brand of HelgaWare. We're getting known now for actually addressing real problems that women are facing in the field, not pinking it and shrinking it and calling it good, which is really, really important for the vision of what we're doing. And then another impact of the partnership from C-SPAN's side, or from any of the other Canadian companies that are now buying HelgaWare, it's really empowering them through diversity to be more competitive, both here at home and potentially internationally. That's something that wasn't apparent to me right away, but it is. Yeah. So then the last benefit or impact to the partnership that we looked at was having that, Canadian small business content. That's very beneficial to the partner. So to, in our case, C-SPAN. That's summing up what we did and how without even knowing it, we were actually very attractive to a buyer. But now that you guys know that information, hopefully you can take a look at what you're doing in your supply chain and really flesh out the impact that your partnership might have and offer yourself up as a really good candidate. Best of luck to y'all. And I'm going to put my website and promo code in the chat as a thank you to you guys for attending today, and a thanks to Osmi for having me talk.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jody. And I think it's very inspiring that you have your business and it also has a social purpose, whether that was intentional or not. And you're really filling a huge gap and helping so many women. So thank you for the work that you do. And we do have some questions that I've seen come up in the chat. So one question is about your contact details. So is there a way that people can get in touch with you after the session?
Yeah, I just put it into the chat. Feel free and shoot me a direct email at jody@helgaware.com. Yeah, that's like, I encourage any questions you have. I'll share with you everything I can.
Thank you so much. There's a question from Kate. So what would you say about selling services to the government? I'm a designer and social media marketer. So maybe what your experience was like?
Well, it wasn't easy. The hardest part, and not just speaking for myself, but other small suppliers, is the visibility, getting seen. So first, set yourself up really well by really thinking about what I've just told you about. How can you position yourself as being an attractive opportunity? And then visibility, trying to get yourself in front of buyers. That's the only advice I have for you.
Well, that's a perfect segue to Anne, who is directly connected with the Department of Defense. They're a really big purchaser, and she can speak to some of the programs that are available and maybe speak to some of the procurement strategies that you have right now. So thank you so much, Jody. Stay on the line as there might be more questions that pop up, and we'll save it for the end for additional Q&A. And with that, great to see you back, Anne. Your video looks great, and hopefully your mic is working too. So go for it and take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Danielle, and my apologies. I keep getting a warning that my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully we'll manage to keep it going throughout my 7 minutes of spiel here. Anyhow, I just wanted, before I get started, just to say, Jody, you're very inspiring. You know, it's wonderful to see women doing wonderful things in business. So congratulations to you, and you know, well done. It's go women. Anyhow. Once again, thanks very much, Danielle, and to Women's Enterprise Center for inviting me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you. My role as so thank you for the great introduction. My role as Acting Director General of International and Industry Programs is that I lead a team that develops, promotes, and executes international and industrial programs for Department of National Defense, primarily in support of material acquisition and support. So this sounds pretty big and pretty impressive, and it's a lot of big words, but really what my role is to be the conduit between industry and Department of National Defense. Not for individual procurements as they happen, but we're kind of the help desk. So unlike most of the material group within the department, my focus of my team is on industry and how we connect with other nations as well. We work really closely with teams right across the Department of National Defense. So the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the material group primarily. And we work with other government departments and agencies, and all with the aim of helping industry meet the objectives of our defense policy, which is strong, secure, and engaged. So I don't lead a team of procurement experts. We don't do procurement, but we're here to help industry kind of navigate some of that and to answer questions and point people in the right direction. Some of the other things that we do when we're not dealing directly with industry is that we help establish memorandum of understanding between nations so that we can work on information sharing. Sometimes that's important for industries to be able to get information from other countries. So we're sometimes able to help on that front. We also review export permits. So if you're a company that is exporting certain materials to other countries, we contribute to those reviews. We also negotiate with other nations to make sure that our defense industry is well situated for successful export opportunities. So we speak on behalf of the Department for the National Technological Industrial Base. So really we're here to champion defense industry in Canada and make sure that you're well represented on the defense front. Making sure that Canada has a strong defense industry is really important for us, because without the defense industry, we're not able to make sure that the Canadian Army, the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Royal Canadian Air Force have the equipment that they need to do their jobs. So we need to support you to make sure that you're able to support us. So really, it's a bit of a circular thing we've got going on. So we're here to help, really we are. It sounds like it might be a bit overwhelming to do business with a department that does billions of dollars worth of procurement every year. And generally, a lot of our procurement is done with larger companies. I've heard C-SPAN. Everybody's aware of General Dynamics. You hear Lockheed Martin. You hear all of those big names. But I'm here to dispel the myth that we only do business with big enterprise. We're eager to do business with small and medium enterprise, and particularly those that are led by women. So I'm going to give you an example of one company that we do, that we have a connection with. And the company is called Genair Limited. So Genair Limited has a woman CEO by the name of Melissa Warner. Her company was established in 1951. And it's a family-run business that have been going on for 3 generations now. They have about 52 employees last time we heard, so small business. And currently their total sales of their business is 200 to 500,000 annually. And that's in Canadian dollars. That said, they're a small company located Niagara on the Lake, close to us here in Ottawa. And they've got a contract value of about $3.25 million with the Department of Defense with option years. So that's pretty big business for a very small company. They do repair and overhaul for fuel cells and skis on some of our aircraft. And they do technical investigation and engineering services support to help as well. So this company didn't kind of come about doing business with us in the traditional manner. A few years ago, we tried to run a competition for this. We put out an RFI. So we tried to put out a tender, and what worked in that particular case, there were no successful companies that were able to bid on it. So this was awarded as a sole source contract to Genair. So they were deemed to be the only company that could provide the service that they provide. So they're playing a pretty critical role to defense industry, or to the defense of Canada, in that they're providing a service to us. Small company, woman-led, 52 people. If they can do that, your business can do that as well. So the thing that makes this very possible for them is that they meet the requirements. So you heard Aaron speak on kind of what's important, how you get a contract with Department of National Defense or with government. And we always do things by request for proposals, or we put tenders on the buy and sell. With each of those, we identify what our requirements are up front. When we identify what our requirements are, it's imperative that when you're answering that call, when you're saying, hey, I can offer that service to you, that you tell us how you're going to meet those requirements. So I heard some really good suggestions there about some of those environmental things. It's not enough to say, hey, I've got a really good idea. What ends up happening is we have a requirement, we put it on the buy and sell. We're looking for people to say how they met those requirements. When you answer how you meet those requirements, they get scored. So every time we do a contract award, we're basing it on how well you meet those requirements. So there's scores that are given for different things. And then what will end up happening is when we put out those RFPs on the buy and sell, those requests for proposals, we say how we're going to select the winner. Very often it's lowest compliant bid or lowest cost compliant bid. So that means you meet all of the requirements and you've got the lowest cost, that you understand what's written in those RFPs and that you answer those questions. If you're not sure, every time there's a posting on the buy and sell, there's going to be a contact name. If you're not sure what that means, something in there, reach out to that person and ask the questions. Make sure you really understand what's being asked of you, because if you're capable of doing this, we want to see your proposals. We want to have your bids. It takes time, it takes energy, but if you understand what we're asking of you, then you can answer the proposal well, and then you can be a competitive bidder on that. If you want to do business with the government, really recommend you keep an eye on the buy and sell. Reach out to the Office of Small and Medium Enterprise. They've got some fantastic help there. Thank you very much, Aaron, for that. Also on the buy and sell, you're going to see information on industry days. Those are information sessions that are held kind of in advance of procurements that are coming up, where we kind of give information to industry of, hey, this is what's coming down the pipe that you want to be aware of. It's important to be aware of that because that helps you prepare. If there are security clearances that you need to have in order to do business with us, some do, some don't, this gives you time to make sure you get those security clearances in place. If there's certain certifications that your company must have in order to do a certain procurement for us, this gives you an opportunity to get that done in advance. So get those things in place, keep an eye on the buy and sell, and reach out to prime contractors as well. So if you work in a particular segment of the defense industry or of Canadian industry in general, that you think, hey, I might have something that would be, really good on, the ship that's coming up for sale, or perhaps there's aircraft that we're going to be procuring, and you think you've got a technology, as small as it might be, that might fit into one of those larger procurements, figure out who are the key players who might be bidding on that and make those connections. You really do need to know the industry, but forming those connections will help you be successful. Things like airplanes, tanks, ships, those are big procurements, and chances are they're not going to go to one of the smaller industries. Those are led by prime contractors, but if you're able to find some connections into those prime contractors, that will also help you set you up for success. My team is here available to help answer questions. So the information will be provided. I know Danielle's got some information she'll be sending out if she hasn't already. So I encourage you to reach out to us and see what we can do to try and help you help us. Like I said at the beginning, having a strong defense industry is important to us. And that defense industry isn't just the big multi-million-dollar companies. Sometimes they're the small and medium enterprises. So I really do encourage you to reach out to us and see how we can do business together. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take them when we get to that part of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. I think you really dispelled the myth that the Department of Defense only does business with large or big companies. So I really appreciate you researching a specific example of a woman business owner who owns a small company. And your example that you shared really shows how it can impact this woman's bottom line. The procurement that she's done with the department has really obviously impacted her business. So thank you for sharing that example. I am seeing a question here, and I wonder, Aaron, if you want to take it, or if Anne, you want to. But the question is, can you suggest how to find who the buyers are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the first questions that you want to ask yourself is, what department is going to be the buyer of my good or service? And you might not have an answer right away. You might, we've heard graphic design, we've heard, conflict resolution, or, wellness, right? Like, that's not necessarily going to fall to a specific department. Wellness training is something that all of our departments, I think, offer to their employees as, courses we can take, or bring in consultants to be able to work with specific teams or things like that. So it might not be a specific department, but it might be. And that's one of the first questions you want to ask yourself. So if it is a specific department, if what you sell is components for a fighter jet, there's only going to be one department that's buying what you're selling. And in that case, then yeah, absolutely, you need to find the very specific buyer. Every department has an Ann Bank. Every department has an office like Ann's that can help you navigate where that program lives. We're sort of that, the umbrella above that, and we can help you find the offices like Ann's, or at least help you find the resources that can help you find the offices like Ann's. And then the third thing, and I think this is a really good question, Megan, to sort of tie together everything that we've heard today. So maybe good timing, but of course, if there's other questions, we'll take them as well. I tend to think there's about 3 different kinds of buyers that you might have or you might approach when you're selling to the federal government. And each of those 3 kinds of buyers has a different strategy for how to approach them. The best resource is buyandsell.gc.ca. That's our tender site. That is where all official Government of Canada tenders must be posted. Yes, we've got our new site that's coming out. Yes, Canada Buys is going to replace it, but we have, international trade agreements that must specify where our tenders get released, and it until it changes to Canada Buys, it's going to stay as buyandsell.gc.ca. So it's buy and sell. So it's got a search bar right on it, right on the homepage. Start searching for what it is you sell, and just plug in the language. Try some different different words for what it is you sell. Communications consultant, maybe it's social media, maybe it's whatever. But so play with the different searches and see what kind of results you're getting. There's going to be 3 things that might happen. So A, you might not find anything. You might get 0 results. And the assumption might be the government doesn't buy what I sell, but that is incorrect. Almost, like I said, we buy just about everything. If you aren't seeing it on buy and sell, it's probably because we buy it as low dollar value contracts. And so it never makes it onto the buy and sell. There's a good news, bad news scenario there. The good news is it's going to be a very familiar process for you. It's going to be less government-y. It's going to be much more like a business-to-business relationship. It's going to depend on your marketing. It's going to depend on your research. The bad news is there isn't any single repository of all the opportunities that are available. We don't have a website that has every low dollar value contract posted to it. So how do you find those buyers? Then that goes back to your first question to yourself. Who are my buyers? What departments are they in? And then using our GC directory to potentially find those buyers and reach out to them directly. Go to those industry days that Ann was mentioning. Who are the buyers? Who are the government officials that are showing up at those industry days? How else would you find any customer that isn't a government employee? Managers who are interested in conflict resolution may be searching for those kinds of services the same way that any other customer might be. Anne, did you have something to jump in there with as well? I just saw you unmute yourself. No. Okay. So.
Yeah. I also just want to say, don't give up. You may reach out and say, hey, I've got a neat product. And it may turn out that we're just not buying that right now. And if we don't have a requirement, we're not going to buy it because it's a good idea. We need to wait until it is a requirement, but don't hesitate to reach out and say, I do have that idea, or here is something that I can offer. Because the next time we're going around and that we need to look at options, you know, that might be, hey, I remember seeing something that might, you know, that might be what we need this time. So don't give up, continue to reach out, and don't get discouraged if we don't jump on it right away.
That was really well said, Anne. I think I'm going to steal that if it's okay with you. Is that, you know, we can't buy something just because it's a good idea. That's fantastic. And so, yeah, very sort of eloquently said. Thank you. So yeah, you have to reach out, and again, I stress this all the time to suppliers, is patience. The government moves at a different speed than business. And yeah, just because a tender is not available right now doesn't mean we don't buy that thing or we aren't buying it right now. Okay, so second thing that might happen if you're searching your tenders, you're searching for, you know, women's flight suits on buyandsell.gc.ca. It might be that, hey, boom, right there at the top of the list, women's flight suits shows up. There it is. That's the tender for me. That's the thing that my company can deliver. And then you start the formal bidding process. You got to read through all that, you know, that big statement of work that's in there. Is this something that my company can actually deliver? Can I meet all the requirements that they're asking? What's going to be required of me to bid? Is this something that I'm going to need to devote 70 days to just to create a bid? Is that, you know, within my company's capacity and scope? Is this something that I even want to engage in? And can I deliver the actual contract that is coming out the end of it? You know, so valuable for a small business to know, you know, have a real close eye on your own resources and making sure that you're spending effort on things that are going to be valuable for you as a small business. So if you find that tender, great. Reach out to the contracting officer, ask the questions that you need to ask early for any clarification. If a tender is active and on the street, that contracting authority is the only person you can ask those technical questions to. We're happy to help understand and sort of navigate the process at OSME. But if there is a live tender that is on the street, we have no other information. We cannot provide interpretation or yeah, they would accept that. You know, we can't do any of those checks. That all those things must be verified with the contracting authority. So reach out early.
Okay.
And I just wanted one final thing, just to tie it all together. The third thing is that you might see that contract, but it's huge. It's scoped way beyond what you can deliver. Maybe women's flight suit is just one component of a huge contract for, you know, the Air Force's requirements for maintenance services. And then your opportunity is going to be like Jody's. It's about a subcontract. Can you find who holds that large contract and then reach out to them and market to them? So your buyers might be low dollar value officials within the government. Your buyers might be through the formal bidding process, or your buyers might be those sort of large prime contractors.
Excellent. There's so much information here, and I'm looking at our clock and we are at 11. So I'm going to wrap up the session, and whoever is available to stay on for a couple more questions, let's cover those and kind of take it from there. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So thank you so much to all the presenters today. I feel like you really used language that was easy to digest and really relevant to women business owners on the line. So thank you. A quick note, we do have a survey that is available for women entrepreneurs who are trying to access financing or loans or any kind of money to help you in your business. We were founded 25 years ago because it was identified that access to capital was a real barrier for women entrepreneurs. And every few years, we do research to figure out if we're hitting the mark, if we're missing the mark, if there's something that's changed. So please complete the survey. Netta is going to put it into the chat box. Thank you, Netta. And we'll also include that in the follow-up email. We do have some other free upcoming webinars that I really encourage you to check out. Later on this afternoon, we have a webinar about exporting. And building off of this session on January 19th, we have a procurement webinar about if you're an Indigenous run business, how to do business with the Government of Canada. So there are different priorities that the government has, which have been described today. And if you're an Indigenous woman business owner, there are extra opportunities for you. So I encourage you to register for that free session as well. So how did we do today? Did you like the session? We want to know. There is a URL to complete our webinar feedback survey right here. Netta is also going to put that in the chat box for me. Thank you, Netta. And if you complete the survey, you'll be entered into a draw to win $50. So thank you so much to all the participants and the presenters for being here today. If you want to connect with me for any additional questions or follow-up, my email is here, inquiry@women'senterprise.ca. We will be sending you the recording of today's session. And also there are lots of additional resources that we'll be sharing with you, including Jody's 20% off for her Helgaware products. So thank you. We do have a couple more questions. So anyone who's available to stay on, it looks like there's a question for Anne. So Anne, are you still around? Did she have to pop off? Okay, I think she had to pop off. So we will have follow-up contact for Anne's team. And I don't know, Aaron, it looks like you may have something to build off of.
So Brianna, I believe I may have sent you an email as well. I think I got an email about the compostable glow sticks. But regardless, I'm happy to meet with you. The best way, I really like your approach of sort of looking at a previous RFP and making sure that you're to spec on that. But the testing phase is specifically what Ideas and Innovative Solutions Canada are looking to help with. So I know Innovative Solutions Canada is planning on opening a call for proposals. They call it the testing stream, and specifically looking for products at exactly the stage you're at. Pre-commercialized, you've got something that's spec'd based on some data, but you're looking for a test in a real operational setting to see if it can actually perform the way that personnel need it to. So I would laser focus on the future call through the testing stream of Innovative Solutions Canada, and communicating with the office that had issued that previous RFP to ask them about plans for the future and if they would be willing to potentially help test if you were to be pre-qualified through Innovative Solutions Canada. So yeah, we can chat offline. And then I saw a question from Kim as well that I'd like to address as well in the chat, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So Kim, is Kim still on? Yes, okay. So you asked what price range is considered low dollar contracts. It is $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for services. So anything below those thresholds does not need to go through our big, heavy, expensive bidding process. We can award those through a low dollar direct award as well. Instead, we still need to, ensure we are spending taxpayer money in a judicious way, right? So, there's no, we can't be giving contracts to our cousins or our neighbors or our friends or the same suppliers again and again and again and again if there are other suppliers that are capable of delivering the same service. But the range is $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for services. And then you asked as well if there's a formal mentorship program to help small businesses go through the process of bidding, supplying, etc. And man, great timing you've asked, because our headquarters is just in the process of setting up. I think they're calling it a coaching pilot, not a mentorship program, but and I believe they're even targeting women entrepreneurs with the first cohort of it. So I will connect you with either Tanya or Nancy in my headquarters. I'm not sure who is the right person to connect you with, but we will be putting out a call for suppliers who want to participate in a pilot of a mentorship program in the new year. Kate is also okay. Right on. So I'll put my email in the chat here, and just if you're interested in a mentorship or coaching pilot, please send me an email, and I will connect you with our office and make sure that we put you forward for the application when it's available.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we are 7 minutes over. Thank you so much for everyone for staying with us all this time. Thank you so much to our ASL interpreters. I think that really added some additional value to this session and making sure it's accessible to everyone. So with that, we'll wrap. Thank you everyone for being here today. The recording will be sent out to you, and I wish you all the best in your businesses.
Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Have a great afternoon.